What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Toxeyboyo coming at you with a video about Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now, I don't know how much time you guys spend on other social media apps and other like video sharing platforms, but over the last few months, I've seen this very strong shift in the public opinion regarding Marvel Spider-Man 2 from like it's a good game or it's a great game to it's a terrible game, it's trash, it's the worst game I've ever played, and Insomniac should never be allowed to make a superhero game again. Now, a lot of this comes from the fact that, the Wolverine game is like right around the corner. It's a couple weeks away by the time this video goes up. But the more that we see from the game, the more skeptical I've become, sure, but primarily for story-based reasons. Like, I don't think that it's a good idea to have it be that, Jean Grey is already in her 30s and there's no X-Men. Stuff like that I think is a bad idea, but I'm reserving judgment to see what they want to do with that later on. But a lot of people are saying this game's going to be trash because of Spider-Man 2 or whatever. And the first Spider-Man game and even the Miles game are way better. I do not buy into that sentiment whatsoever. For me, you can't trick me because I remember. I was there. The only game that I've seen more hype for than Spider-Man 2018 is Spider-Man 2. I was there from the moment they showed it off at the State of Play in 2021. Or I guess it was the PlayStation showcase back in the day. Point is, I remember, okay? And I remember seeing how excited people were for the symbiote, and for Kraven, and for Venom, and for all these new things that were adding to the game. The hype surrounding Marvel Spider-Man 2 was unlike anything. I remember contributing to that hype. I remember being over the moon excited for this game. I took a weekend off of work. I worked at a movie theater at the time. Taking a weekend off was no easy task. But I went and I picked the game up on Thursday night at the midnight release. Well, actually more like 9 p.m. I sped home. I literally sped home. I drove over the speed limit to get home faster. I kept my GameStop Spider-Man 2 bag. I was blaring the Black Suit theme song from Spider-Man 3 on my way home. I installed it. I played it before the day one update even went live. I played it with launch bugs. And from Thursday night to Saturday afternoon, I played the game non-stop, and I got the Platinum Trophy within 48 hours of the game being out. I put 20 plus hours in the game within 48 hours. And I remember going back to work and telling everybody it was the greatest game that I had ever played. Now, yes, time has passed. 3 years have gone by. I feel less strongly towards the game than I used to. I love it less. I'm more critical of it. I'm more analytical of it. Right? But I am not prepared to say that Spider-Man 2 was a bad game. And you can't convince me that it was ever a bad game. Yes, I have a 30+ minute video over on the main channel critiquing the game and talking about what I do or don't like and what does or doesn't work for me. Because I love the game. Right? And if we're being completely honest, you cannot convince me, no matter what you show me or what you tell me, because I have 100 hours in the game. You cannot convince me that it is a bad game. What I will give you is that the story is extraordinarily weak, especially in the second half, but even all throughout, if we're being completely honest. I love that they went so hard for including Miles, that they put him on the box art, and the whole selling point of the game is you can play as both Spider-Man. The tagline is "Be Greater Together." But the story is all about Peter. The main villain of the game is Peter's best friend. You're fighting all of Peter's villains, right? And Miles' story in the game, he wants to go to college. Yeah, it runs a little bit deeper than that because Martin Lee is out there and whatever, but Martin Lee is, again, Peter's villain. Yes, Miles has bad blood with him, but so does Peter. Because if we're being completely honest, the fact that Aunt May is dead all traces back to Martin Lee in the first place. So if he hadn't unleashed Devil's Breath in the first place, or captured it in the first place, none of this really would have happened. Octavius probably would have never even been aware of it, and so he couldn't have used it for the final act of that game. So if we're being completely honest, Peter has just as much of a reason to hate Martin Lee as Miles does. So saying like, oh, well, Martin Lee is involved in the story, that's Miles' thing, it doesn't really work for me either. Now, I'm someone that's been playing Resident Evil for most of my life, and Devil May Cry for a large part of my life as well, and I've even played The Last of Us Part 2 since playing Spider-Man 2, and I've seen games come along from before and from after that balance dual protagonists much better than Marvel Spider-Man ever did, or Spider-Man 2 specifically. It is hard to say that Miles feels like anything other than an afterthought in that game, but I love playing as him, so I was really disappointed when going through the story, it kind of just refused to let me play as him at certain points. You know, like, you're stuck as Peter. Basically, once Peter gets the black suit, you are Peter for the next couple hours. There is no balance between the two of them anymore. I think Peter has more boss fights than Miles does, and all of it comes down to, like, yes, Peter is a more iconic character, he's got more history, he's got more costumes, he's got more villains, he's got more stories to adapt. I get that. So my question is, why don't we keep Miles in his own game? I know that it sounds crazy that I'm that I'm advocating for segregation, but if we're being completely honest, trying to balance Peter and Miles in the same story just doesn't seem to be working, and now they're threatening to add another Spider. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. I think most people can agree that that is already poorly balanced. Speaking of poor balancing, the two main villains of the story, Kraven and Venom, there's really no connective tissue between the two of them. There's no intrinsic reason for them to both be in the game, and the fact that it so strongly divides itself into the Kraven part and the Venom part by having Venom actually kill Kraven to signify, hey, we're hard shifting towards Venom now. It's upsetting. I would have liked to see Kraven hunt Venom for an extended period of time. I would have liked for this game to be a lot longer. I would have liked to have the black suit for a lot longer. You know, going back through the game to play it again to do research for that Sustaining Mediocrity video that I did a couple years ago, I realized that Peter only wears the black suit in that game for about 3 days, closer to 2.5. So he has his whole, like, personality change arc and all this crazy stuff that happens that we associate with the black suit, and it happens so quickly that it kind of gives you whiplash. And it maybe makes you think that this game should have just been the black suit saga, and then we do Venom in the third game. Or maybe this game just needs to be 6 or 8 hours longer. There's so much story that it feels like is being left on the cutting room floor, and we do know from the leaks that there was a lot of cut content. But the game also cost like $350 million to develop, which is outrageous. So, like, what happened? Where did it all go? You could also say that it's a little upsetting to have Kraven's entire army be so, you know, tech heavy, but the Insomniac Marvelverse is just very tech heavy in general. It's something that it seems like we're not really going to be able to get away from. You could say that it's hard to feel attached to the relationship between Peter and Harry because Harry is a little more than a voice in your head in the first game. That's valid too. Like, I understand a lot of the criticisms for this game, and I share a lot of them. But I don't think that a bad story makes a bad game. Unless it's a visual novel, or like a Telltale game or something like that, where the story really is 90% of the experience. For me, a game like this, the gameplay being good is still what's going to determine whether or not I have fun playing the game, because Spider-Man 2 is still a game that I load up into now. I still have this game installed on my PS5. I'm going to go get footage for this game, or for this video. I'm going to go get B-roll after recording this, because I already have the game installed on my PlayStation. I keep it around. And the reason for that is that, by and large, despite everything, I still find this game to be enjoyable. I love swinging, I love the web wings, I love the combat, I love a lot of the changes that they've made to the combat. I love the upgrades that they've made to stealth. The only things that I really wish were still there are some of the gadgets from the very first game. That's really it. I don't love the Doc Ock-like tentacles that Peter puts into his suit, so I use the symbiote powers. And I understand that they did that so that Peter wouldn't feel obsolete compared to Miles. They wanted to give Peter something that was fun and distinct for his character that could compete with Miles having Venom powers. I get that. and I respect it, and I appreciate it. It all makes sense to me. I just personally don't like the idea of him building Doc Ock legs into his own suit. And then when it comes to the symbiote thing, I get that, again, for gameplay purposes, because we have to remember that this is a game first. It's not a movie, it's not a TV show. For gameplay purposes, it would really suck to have you unlock and upgrade all of these symbiote abilities and then take them away for the sake of having to get Venom in the game. So that is why the anti-Venom suit is in the game. I know it kind of sucks to have it repeat what happened in the first game, where Peter gets his hands on a suit that's like specifically designed to counter the main villain. I get that. And I really hope they don't repeat this again in the next game. But gameplay-wise, it 100% makes sense. Does that mean that I like the anti-Venom suit? No, not at all. Yeah, I can be critical of this game, and I can acknowledge that there are some serious flaws, but with the exception of, like, yeah, I miss the trip mines and like the web grenades and stuff like that, the gameplay is an upgrade in pretty much every possible way. There are so many more routes you can go when it comes to open combat. You can pick an enemy up and slam them on the ground, or slam them into a wall to their left or to their right, when you couldn't do that before. You pretty much had to web them up and then throw them around and then kind of point the camera where you wanted them to go. And while that worked really well in the first game, it's obviously better in the second one. And I honestly think that, you know, villain-wise, the fact that Kraven and Venom are kind of in different worlds can be looked at as an advantage over the first game, because Martin Lee and Martin Lee and Otto Octavius in the first game pretty much have the exact same motivation and the same arc. Like, they were both men that Peter admired and respected and looked up to, and then they both turned out to be fucking crazy, and they both hated Norman and wanted Norman dead. In the same story. So it feels kind of repetitive. At least Spider-Man 2 has something else going for it. Now again, am I here to tell you that this game is perfect? No. Am I here to tell you that the story is, you know, airtight and that there's nothing wrong with it? Absolutely not. The story is obviously the weakest part of the entire game. But I won't be told that Spider-Man 2 is a bad game. There is so much to enjoy about it. I don't like the Danicast any more than you do, right? But legitimately, the stealth gameplay is so much more fun. And something that I complained about in the first game is that, like, once you do a certain number of crimes of each type, they kind of go away. Like, when you stop enough Sable agents, they're no longer in the game. When you stop enough inner demons, they're no longer in the game. When you stop enough escaped prisoners, they are no longer in the game. Spider-Man 2 fixes this. You can still encounter symbiotes after the story is over. You can still encounter Kraven guys. You can still encounter, you know, Flame cult members. There's not like a tally of you have to take down this many of this enemy type to like save this district of New York and then they're gone. People complain about it. Insomniac listened. So clearly, they are open to taking feedback. I know that Brian Inzahar likes to push back on certain things because we also said, we don't want to play as MJ anymore. And Brian said, what if you still played as MJ, but this time it made even less sense because she puts a web shooter on a taser that she got, and now she can shoot webs across the map. Now she's one-shotting guys that Miles and Peter are like dumping hits into. Now she's tanking poison-tipped arrows or whatever. I get that. But overall, I really do have a hard time saying that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a bad game. I quite like it. I'm probably going to like Wolverine, and I'm probably still going to like Spider-Man 3. Because, yes, the story is bad, but this is a video game. It takes more than a bad story for the game to be bad. And even look at a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, or Grand Theft Auto 5. I don't particularly think that these games have great gameplay, but they do have amazing stories, and that convinces people to call these games 10 out of 10s greatest of all time, right? So sometimes, even if one aspect is strongly lacking, it can be made up for in stows by the other categories. And that's kind of the only thing that I want to say here. Like, I know it's taken me quite a while to get here. Just go back through and play the game again. If you have a copy of Spider-Man 2 and you're starting to believe that the game is bad, go back and play it again. For me, still a good game. I still will give it a 7 out of 10 even today. I know that IGN has kind of soured the meaning of a 7 out of 10 game, It's an average game, okay? It's not great, it's not spectacular, but it's not a bad game at all. But if you've seen kind of what I'm talking about here with like this new discourse that Spider-Man 2 is suddenly the worst game of all time, let me know. And let me know what you think about it. Do you still like Spider-Man 2? Or have you started to kind of change your opinion on it and be like, maybe the game isn't as good as I remember it being? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below and educate me. And as always, for more videos from me, go ahead and click somewhere on the screen. I'll see you next time.